Page Kuf Lamed Zayin on the bottom of the section. Okay? So as we said, he spoke quite extensively of the principle of Etzem and Haor and Oir. And we gave the illustration from the sun and its ziv, its shine, where the sun is an etzem, it's an essence of light, a bright essence. Essence of light is not even correct. A bright essence. This is how it was created, to be bright. Has not developed from something else. This is its essential being. And thus, wherever it is, it illuminates automatically. Because in essence, affects its environment automatically. V'hinei, behold, even as this is in the case of the light and the shine of the sun, that it spreads forth and illuminates without concerted effort to accomplish this illumination, but by its very presence, the environment becomes bright like itself. Likewise, likewise the same inyan repeats itself on the higher level. In the oil v'chayes hanefesh, in the light and the chayes and life element of the nefesh, v'hachiyas haguf, to enliven the body. This is much more significant, much more phenomenal, because the sun illuminates, but the world does not become light per se. It's illuminated by the presence of the sun. Whereas in the case of Oy B'chayes HaNefesh, of the light of the sun, of the Chayes of the Nefesh, L'hachi is a goof that comes to enliven the goof. The goof absorbs this Chayes in such a profound and personal manner that the goof literally comes to life. Clearly, it is alive because of the Chayes HaNefesh that has imbued itself in it. It does not live independently of the Chayes HaNefesh. But with the Chayes HaNefesh, the goof literally comes to life. As we point out, that the phenomenal thing that this Chayes affects is that the goof could not last on its own for any duration of time. It would just fall apart, it would just rot. And this Chayes keeps it as fresh as ever, because it has an inbred, an internal Chayus, life element, and therefore it has the same as essence and support as life itself. Life does not dissipate, neither does the goof dissipate, as long as the life is in it. So in explaining, speaking about Oy B'chayes HaNefesh, and we say this is oir. And the effect of oir is b'derech mamela, is automatic. And also, what comes from the oir into the guf, it is not the essence of the oir. It is only a ha'ora, shehu gamkin lag ha'ora levad. It is only the ha'ora. What does a ha'ora mean? Again, this is something which we discussed a lot. A ha'ora means a reflection. What is a reflection? A reflection is something that reflects an essence, but it doesn't have the substance of this essence. It only reflects what this essence is about, but it doesn't have its substance. Like we said in the case of the sun and its oil that's present in the world. The oil illuminates the whole world, but it doesn't become a sun. Oh, this is from this guy. So the ha'ora, the reflection of the nefesh, what does the reflection mean? The reflection of nefesh is, it reflects what is the essence of nefesh. The essence of the nefesh is that it is a living spirit. It is life itself. Just like shemesh is brightness itself, so too is nefesh, life itself. And this essence of life produces a ha'ora. The production of the ha'ora is, again, effortless. Because it reflects the essence of life itself. But, as we said before, it's only a ha'ora, which means it reflects life, but it doesn't bring the essence of life, the actual tangible presence of life. It reflects living. And this living element is what is slavish in the guf. Okay, the second line. Sheharei, since that, etzem ha-nefesh, the etzem, the essence of the nefesh, eino nimshach, is not drawn, lahachis is a guf, to enliven the guf. Even though the guf seems to be reflective of a living thing. But this is the life element rather than the essence of where this life comes from, what the nefesh is. The etzem ha-nefesh, even though, as we said, it gives life b'derech mamela, but the etzem ha-nefesh has a perception what life is about. It represents the divine gift of life. Should we wake him up? What?
And then what?
He'll quieten down, that's all. Just for a moment. So the Etzem HaNefesh is not nimshach lahachis es haguf, to enliven the guf. Rag ha'arose levad. Only the ha'ora, the reflection of this Etzem HaNefesh. What the reflection? It was the living element. Only the life element, the living element, rather than the life-giving element.
Unless you want him to participate to the shiur.
Right. Okay. Well, I have to tolerate that too.
Here, ha'ara doesn't mean oil.
What?
the nefesh.
Yes.
Only the ha'ara doesn't mean the oil.
No, ha'ara, in the oil itself there is a ha'ara element. The ha'ara is the effect of the presence of oil. Just as we said in the case of the sun illuminates, spreads out an oil, and this oil is present throughout the world, and that illuminates the world. What illuminates the world? The brightness of this ha'ara, not the actual ha'ara itself, not the oil itself. The oil remains connected to the sun and reflective of the sun. What illuminates the world? It is the brightness of this oil. Which is called ha'ara. Let's read again the second line. Sheharei, since that behold, etzem ha-nefesh, the essence of the nefesh, ein nimshach la'achis es haguf, is not drawn to lahachis, to bring to life the guf. How do we see that? This is Sheharei, for behold. How do we see that that's not the etzem nefesh that is nimshach to lahachis es haguf? So the nefesh, for example, just give him a tap.
חייב.
I did it. See. The etzem ha-nefesh cannot tolerate impurity, cannot tolerate evil. The guf, unfortunately, is capable of tolerating purity.
It even likes it.
Don't go that far. Even though it is also living from a nefesh, because it doesn't have the essence of the nefesh, lachis es haguf, only the ha'ara. That aspect of the nefesh, that the guf, that can become guf, like at the level of the guf, a life, only the living aspect, so that the guf will not fall apart, will not rot, but not what life stands for. Why is it that the nefesh cannot tolerate impurity? Because the nefesh represents the source of life, the godliness that is the source of this life. And this is what we see, what we say. We see that the etzem nefesh is not nimshach lachis es haguf. Because if it were the etzem nefesh there, then the guf could not possibly tolerate all the things that it takes, that it tolerates, that it gets involved with. And the reason that it is able to get involved in these things is because the guf gets only a superficial order of the sin, just so that it doesn't rot away. not the essence, what life is about, and what is significance of life. That doesn't come into the guf. V'lochein, on the third line, v'lochein, and therefore, since that the light or the ha'orah that comes into the guf is only ha'orah, not the essence, for this reason, it does not cause any kind of change and effect on the etzem of the nefesh itself. Meir or Eina Meir. Whether the oil is Meir, illuminates, or the oil is not Meir, or it does not illuminate, the nefesh is not affected by it. And the reason for that is because the nefesh that is not engaged in producing this light. The light emanates from the nefesh b'derech memela, effortlessly, but the very fact that the nefesh is a living entity, thus its presence brings forth life. This is much more difficult for us to conceptualize than the first morsel of the sun and its ray, because there we clearly see this essence and its ray. In the nefesh, it is difficult for us to project what it means, the etzem nefesh and its ray. Nonetheless, as we said, we can tell, we can understand that if the chayas in the guf were like nefesh itself, then it would be very restrictive. Then it could not tolerate that which nefesh cannot tolerate.
Mm-hmm. Can tolerate.
What?
Can tolerate.
That which nefesh can't. That which the guf is able to tolerate, but the nefesh cannot tolerate.
Right.
Can't. Let's pursue this a little more. And likewise, the fact that this nefesh is mechaya zaguf, brings the guf to life, it is shelo yaldei hisaskus. It is not as a result of hisaskus, a process of engaging, of acting to bring to life, to enliven the guf. Which means, shalidei slapshutzis beguf, where, as a result, and that's just by this function, that is slapshutz beguf, that the nefesh, or nefesh, is mislabish in the guf, imbues itself in the guf, memela ha guf chai. Automatically and effortlessly, the guf lives. In other words, the guf lives because there is an element of nefesh in the guf. But this element of nefesh is imbued into the guf, and thus the guf comes to life. But when you're looking at this, at the living guf, it is the life element that's in the guf that you are observing, rather than the guf. Because the fact is that if this life element departs from the guf, then the guf falls like a lifeless entity. No kidding. In this respect, this is very similar to the sun. The brightness that the sun brings to the world remains something that belongs to the sun. It's not claimed, it's not owned by the world. The world is illuminated because the sun is present. When we see a bright world, we don't say, oh, what a bright world. We say brightness in the world is from the sun. And this is why we say memela the guf. The guf lives memela automatically or effortlessly by the very presence of the chayes nefesh, the presence of life element of the nefesh. However, over here it's a little different than in the case of the sun. In the sun there is no hislapshus of light into the world. There's a presence of light, of the sun, and the world is illuminated by it. But over here, there's a much deeper correlationship between the chayas and the guf. The chayas has to fit to the guf in order to bring the life element into the guf. Let's continue one more line. The fact that there is a need of a tzimtzum. Big daily is labish beguf, in order that the chayes nefesh should be imbued in the guf. Because we said before that the chayes nefesh is imbued in the guf, and the guf it lives automatically. And yet we also know that there has to be a tzimtzum in the chayes hanuf, in the oil hanefesh, to be mislabish in the guf. So why does it need a tzimtzum? If this is automatic, it is just because of the presence of the chayes. This is why the guf comes to life. So why does it need a tzimtzum? A tzimtzum means that it is approximating its presence to that which a guf, which pertains to a guf, which can be effective in the guf. So he says like this: the fact that it needs to be a tzimtzum in order to be established in the guf, zehu, that is rak big day, only for this, in order only in order so that the chayes nefesh should have some kind of a relationship to the guf. So that the nefesh should be able to understand what guf is. For this reason, you have to have a tzimtzum. You should have a shaychus of guf. You should have a relationship to the guf. Clearly, these are much more difficult concepts than what we had in the case of the sun. The nefesh is not only a spiritual entity, but it is an essence of spirit. In contrast to the guf, that is a physical entity. The guf, in essence, is lifeless. And it's made of physical material. The nefesh is life through and through. Again, we do not have the means to understand that, but we can, as we said, vihine. There's an essence of life that we can relate to through our vision, to our chokhmah. Let us try and cause ourselves to focus into it. Despite the fact that we cannot understand and describe what life is, somehow we can readily identify this is a living body. It's a living entity. And we identified life in the body not by virtue of the fact that the body can move around. So therefore there is some kind of force that causes it to move. Life itself is something that we can recognize. This is due to our faculty, what's called chokhmah, where chokhmah can see what there is of truth without having to decipher it and making sense of it. We already have gone through, so to speak, the first test of that. The essence of sun, of the brightness of the sun. We had a long struggle about it, but we struggled through it. And we said, the sun is an essence of brightness. It is not a brightness that is being created physically, even though it illuminates in the physical world. It is a brightness that was created as brightness. What's brightness? Does it have a physical structure, makeup? No, it does not. Brightness is the divine command, the divine element of brightness. That is the brightness of the sun. Etzem bihiri. Because of the fact that the sun is an etzem bihiri, this is why the sun brings to a state of brightness the entire environment where it is present, without having to as much to act on it. The nefesh is likewise. It's an etzem that is alive, a living entity. And just as the brightness of the sun, which is a much lower level, is a divine element, only God can create this kind of a brightness. Because it represents a godly brightness rather than a worldly brightness. A worldly brightness needs a worldly basis. This is a brightness that is there by divine command, reflective of the brightness of a divine brightness itself. And the point that brings it home, that makes us recognize it, is that the brightness of the sun does not dissipate over thousands and thousands of years. If it were a result of some kind of combustion, some kind of physical activity, then it would have to dissipate, or lower at least. And it does not become lower at all. With the same brightness and power as it was in the beginning of the creation. Because it is reflective excuse me, of the divine principle of brightness. Despite the fact that we can see it with our physical eyes. The similar thing is in the life of the nefesh. We can also observe it with our physical eyes, not life, but a living. And there's no way to understand, for us to understand it. For this is life that is reflective of a divine element of life. What is divine? If I can be using that term so easily. Divine is not the presence. It's not an identifiable presence at all. It is totally unidentifiable. Not only is it not tangible, it is not visible. It is a fundamental truth itself, as truth is. It's a truth of presence without any kind of a substance.